Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is part of Court and Parts,
podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows: Geek Gravy, We Got 5, TV Ate My Brain, and Get Real Movies at courtandarts.com.
Come see the featured performers of the Sketch Propcast at Sketch Prop Live on October 22nd for a special 2-hour, one-night-only taping of their brand new series coming to YouTube this fall at the Hackensack Cultural Arts Center in Hackensack, New Jersey, with performances by The Dog Show, American Breakfast, Drunk Panda, Randy Riemann, and featuring the debuts of Chillville and Holograms, plus stand-up comedy by Amy Garson, Rob Asaro, and so much more. For more information and to purchase tickets online, go to sketchprop.com now.
Coming to you undead from Elm Street in fictional Haddonfield with a beautiful view of Crystal Lake. The podcast where every day is Friday the 13th and every night is Halloween. You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett667, the neighbor of the beast.
Thank you for tuning in to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, the official horror podcast of the Core Temp Arts Network. You can find us on iTunes. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, Google Play, and of course, coretemparts.com. Reach out to us on Facebook, as some of you have, on Twitter, where many of you have, and on Tumblr, where none of you have. This is episode...
No one likes Tumblr.
Nobody likes
No one.
Tumblr. And look for us on MySpace. We're not there.
But you could look.
You can look. Sorry, I had to move my microphone there for a second. Okay. This is episode 14. My name is Bloodbath.
I'm Brett667, the neighbor of the beast.
I'm Bub.
And as always, this show is aided by the Bride of Bloodbath and the music from the amazing Slasher Film Festival Strategy and Nightbirds. Before we get rolling into our segments and our discussion today, I want to thank my esteemed co-host for picking up the slack last week during my absence. People got to work. It is what it is. Wonderful job, boys. Thank you very much.
Happy to do it.
Thank you, sir.
I also want to thank our friend Chris Revel, who had me as a guest on his podcast a few weeks ago, and that episode just aired. His show is called Let's Chat. It's also part of the Core Temp Arts Network, so be sure to check him out as well. Over the course of the next few weeks, I will be covering the Exorcist TV series for TV Ate My Brain. For those of you who don't know, it's a collaborative TV podcast that Core Temp Arts producers and hosts participate in. I'd like to thank Carly for asking me to participate in it. And for our listeners, we're on the precipice of the best time of the year. The last furnace blasts of summer are finally behind us. The weather's cooling down, sweatshirts are being pulled out of storage as the leaves begin to fall from the trees. That's right, I'm talking about autumn. And as we all know, the best part of it is October. And why? Halloween, of course. I've spent at least one Halloween with Bub and Brett. Brett and I went to a house party dressed as pervy doctors.
Yes, we did.
And Bruce and I played a show on Halloween up in New England. And I remember...
It was in Salem.
Yeah.
Salem, Massachusetts.
My best memories take place in the fall months, and I would like very much to continue that tradition. Here's how you can be a part of it too. As we count down to Halloween, we would like our loyal listeners to hit us up with some requests. We want to talk about your favorite horror movies to watch as Halloween approaches. So we already got a few requests and suggestions, but we want to hear from you guys. So hit us up on Twitter at bloodgutsbluray. Or you can email us at bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Or hit us up on Facebook. We can't promise we're going to get to all of them, but we will try. And at the very least, we're going to give you a shout out on the show for hitting us up. Some of the ones we've gotten so far, we've either already talked about in previous episodes. We kind of sort of made plans for some of them down the road that's going to be past October. And you guys have excellent taste, because there's a few that we don't even want to talk about because we would just look fucking stupid criticizing some of these movies. So it would make us look like egomaniacal dorks. So after this episode, the countdown to Halloween begins. We'll be doing double features. We're going to talk about 2 films, and the episode right before Halloween, we're going to do 3. I know that next week we're going to do Night of the Living Dead and the remake, the 1990 remake, Tom Savini. So before we get into this week's film, let's check in with Bub for Killer News.
It's that time again. It's Killer News with Bub on Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray.
All right. So my first thing is, you remember the Burger King Halloween Whopper, right?
Yeah.
That whole black bun thing.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love that, right?
Love it.
So, Doritos is coming out with a Halloween-themed chip.
Oh,
And
really?
I'm all over that. Yeah, man. Garlic pepper Doritos.
Ooh.
They're black as night.
Yum.
Black as night Doritos. A black Dorito? Who's not going to eat that?
Black Doritos matter.
I was thinking the same thing. We're on the same page.
Yeah, I read about that. I was like, I am ready to try that. I'm pretty sure a kid in Japan came up with it, and I'm okay with that. And then, another thing they got coming up is there's a recent petition to bring back Unsolved Mysteries.
I saw that, to bring it back to Netflix, right?
Oh yeah, I love it. I mean, that's like real things that happen, real life horror. I mean, the only thing I got wrong with it is who's going to replace Robert Stack.
Well,
Like,
who
would you have replace him?
Nobody can replace Robert Stack, one. But I think they're bringing the old episodes back, like the really, like, it's basically like a syndicated thing. It's like bringing back Gilligan's Island.
From what I read, they're trying to start up a whole new thing.
Who would replace Robert Stack? That would be tough. That would be really tough.
I thought about it. You know who my pick is?
Who's your pick?
Malcolm McDowell.
Who's
Why
that?
is that name familiar?
He's been in a lot of newer like Rob Zombie films. He's like that.
Oh,
he's got that,
yeah. He was the Clockwork
he's that
Orange.
old
Duh.
dude.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He's that older dude with the white hair. You
Yeah.
know, like, yeah, that guy. Perfect fit,
He could do it. Yeah. Actually, that's pretty good.
right? Who would you pick?
Nick
Think about
Nick Nolte.
it. Blue
Nick
chips.
Nolte's my. Because I want him to have that Nick Nolte like, God, every.
In a suburban setting.
Or that guy from Bar Rescue. I was thinking maybe he would be good because
Who? John Taffer?
right, because I think he is hilarious, and like the way like he's kind of got that like stoic look on his face when he stares at the camera, but when he's yelling at people, that's when he like kind of goes into character. I would really love to see him rescue the bar from dusk till dawn.
Oh yeah, that'd be
It's
great.
That would be
Twister?
awesome. Yep.
You
Right?
got vampires everywhere in here. This place is a mess. Clean it up.
Screaming.
You got vampires falling from the fucking ceiling.
You're killing off all your customers.
That's great.
You don't serve fucking blood here, then why are they here?
What the fuck is the matter with you? We're gonna close this place down. People's safety.
That guy's too over the top.
He's great. I love him. I don't even
You
drink.
got guys firing. You got guys firing guns out of their crotches.
Look at this kitchen. It's a mess. There's human blood everywhere. And what are you gonna do with all those cars?
And then he uses the cars that they hid behind it at the end. He uses them to like build a new pyramid of like it's like an outside like he basically just builds a whole nother bar out of it.
And then we took the corpses and we put them in there for ambiance.
I've been thinking about this all week. Because there's another... I guess somebody else mentioned something about him rescuing the bar from Mos Eisley in the first Star Wars movie.
You're not serving droids? It's like 20% of your customer base. You got dead green guys everywhere. Who cares who shot first?
Anyway. What else you got?
And then, I figured since we're called Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, I would talk about a Blu-ray release that's coming out this week. They're re-releasing Return of the Living Dead 3.
I did see that.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Motorcycle chicks with glass in her. Come on. Can't go wrong.
No, you can't. It's a great movie. They're all of them are good. I like all of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're an acquired taste, but I like them.
I was making a list the other day of I got asked to be part of some another Halloween podcast, like just as a guest, and I'll plug it when I actually record with them. But I'm very much looking forward to it, and I was like writing down a list of, because they wanted me to do underrated Halloween movies, and like I went online just to see what, just to get an idea, like, oh yeah, maybe that one is kind of underrated, whatever. The underrated, people are putting down like Halloween, like the original Halloween, like that's an underrated Halloween film. How is that underrated? Like, they're Trick or Treat. None of those are underrated. They're like Halloween staples. You know what I mean? And one of the ones I wrote down was Return of the Living Dead 3. So I think that one's a really good one. So I don't think it's the most underrated, but I think there are a couple on that list, and that's one of them. So what else you got?
That's it, bro.
Yeah, it's been a slow week in news, huh?
I'm telling you, man. You know what? I was looking it up all week, and there's not a lot of scary stuff happening.
Yeah. Well, that happens.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Let us know what you think by reaching out to us. We can be found on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook by simply searching Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. To suggest a film or trailer you think we should discuss, or to comment on this or any other episode, send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. We will always get back to you. Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, and enjoy the rest of the show.
I remember the story like this. It was a dark and scary night, kind of like tonight.
25 years ago, a horrible crime was committed in the town of Cherry Falls. Now...
You haven't heard about Rod and Stacy?
Did they break up?
Break up! Wake up! They're dead!
What their parents hid in the past.
Nobody has seen or heard of her for over 25 years.
Mom, do you know anything about a woman named Laura Lee Sherman? No. Why?
Is haunting the present.
Who is it? Is your mom home? No. She didn't tell you I was coming by.
4 teenagers have been killed, a 5th viciously attacked. All victims appear to be virgins.
Federalists decided to take themselves off the endangered species list and have sex.
I need to ask you a personal question. About how far you've gone, base-wise? Can you go further?
Tell me about Laura Lee Sherman. Tell me. That was 25 years ago. Do you think she goes all the way? Doubt it. You better come. Come on.
This is my post. I can't just split.
Cherry Falls.
Did you want your first time to be something beautiful, something romantic?
So, this week's film is Cherry Falls. It is directed by Jeffrey Wright, whose other films I have never seen. Here's the rundown. It was released in theaters outside the U.S. in 2000 and straight to TV within the U.S. on the USA Network. Its budget was $14 million, making it the most expensive TV movie ever. That's not just me saying that. That's the real deal. The body count was somewhere around 10. There's one, I guess, mass naughty count where there's a bunch of teenagers fucking each other. Brett, just shoulders.
No, there's a naked body. One of the virgins that gets axed when she comes out of when they take her out of the what do you call it? At the corners, you could see boob.
Yeah, and there's a nip slip in there. Brett is gonna give us a synopsis.
Oh man, what can I say? So there's a slasher loose in Cherry Falls, Virginia, and he or she is killing all the virgins in town. And Jody, our main star, is the daughter of the sheriff. And one by one, her friends and co-classmates are getting killed. And it's a race against time, Jody being a virgin, for her to figure out who the murderer is and if she's going to survive to the end of it all.
Very well done. Very well done. Very appropriate for today. Before we get started on talking points, I'm going to say this. This film gives me the warm feeling of nostalgia every time I even think about it. I'm not saying it's an incredible film or anything, but what I am saying is that I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing when I saw it for the first time. I was in the upstairs living room of my parents' house in Stockholm, New Jersey. It was my first semester of college. I was studying for an exam for a few hours. I was getting burnt out. I took a smoke break. Felt the chill of the air and the weather turning, much like it is right now. I came back inside, turned on the TV just as the first kills were happening. And I sat down and watched the whole thing, laughing at its ridiculousness. Because this movie's ridiculous.
It is.
And that was 14 years ago. And it was probably the same week 14 years ago that I saw this movie. So, when I saw Rob Zombie's Halloween remake and sequel, I compared the town settings almost immediately in my head. The fictional town Cherry Falls reminded me very much of the setting of Salem and Hocus Pocus. And even though I'd never been there at that point, I felt it. It was very weird. I probably sound like a nutcase right now. I watch a lot of horror movies, and I take a lot of notes on each one. I'm about to finish the second notebook full of horror notes of all the films I've watched in the last few months. And Cherry Falls has more notes than any other film I've watched so far. That could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. So we're going to do something we almost never do, and that is sort of go through this movie soup to nuts. What do you got? Are you guys game for that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So our movie starts. We're in Cherry Falls, Virginia, which is a fictional town. And a couple of kids. One of them was I think he was in Bring It On. Are hooking up in a car, and he's trying to go all the way. And so he starts talking like dirty using science fiction. Which, yeah, because I always use science fiction to bed chicks.
It was a look into my personal life in high school.
Ugh.
I love it. I wish.
Go ahead.
I love that. I love that. Like, he's like, I wish you to know my name is Sunam Ulax.
Mine usually goes something like, "Hey baby, why don't you get comfortable and undress yourself while I discuss the finer parts of Dune." Dude, the science fiction angle only works if you're trying to get with the green chicks that Captain Kirk used to smash out. It's a super dumb part, but it sort of sets the precedence for how fucking silly this movie is. all these kids talk like they're on the set of Dawson's Creek, but it's a movie that's totally aping Scream. Aping Scream is also very common to do almost any time after 1996. Even Scream sequels were doing it. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Valentine, Cry Wolf. When I was in high school and even a little bit after, horror movies that were coming out were big budget teen bullshit like that, and Disturbing Behavior and The Faculty and all that other bullshit. So anyway, so these kids are hooking up, and this slasher comes out of nowhere and kills Sci-Fi Boy and kills his girlfriend or whatever. And after Sci-Fi Boy's girlfriend gets killed, the killer, who appears to be a woman or a really convincing black metal singer, he I don't know if you guys noticed this, he puts his hand on her face, and you could totally tell that those are not woman hands. Those are man hands.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, they look like big mitts, you know?
You know what all I thought was when I first saw the killer was Nathan Explosion from Metalocalypse.
It's true.
Like, you just see that long black hair hanging in the face, and I was like, you're dead.
I like my coffee black. So then we cut to Brittany Murphy and her boyfriend, who's a total herb, in his car right outside of her house. And like I said, this guy's a herb. They're hooking up, and he's trying to get in her pants, and she's like, "No, I'm late. I gotta go inside." And of course, he throws like a little hissy fit. He dresses like a Macy's catalog. He breaks up with Brittany Murphy because she won't fuck him in his car parked in front of their parents' house. And then her mom comes up. Her mom comes up and asks him for a cigarette, and then he hits on her mom. It's a fucking scumbag. Anyway, so they're like donezo. And Brittany Murphy runs inside, hoping that she's not going to cross paths with her dad, who is Michael Biehn or Bine. I don't know what's the right way. I don't know.
It's Biehn. Pretty sure it's Biehn.
It's Biehn, right?
Yeah.
And so Michael Biehn is her dad, who is awesome. And
best
he's like,
you're fucking
exactly. He is the best part of this movie. You're fucking grounded. And again, he makes the whole movie better. Actually, he was not supposed to be in this movie. It was supposed to be Stephen Lang, but Michael Biehn ended up taking the part. His agent convinced him to do it. So she goes to bed, and then comes maybe one of the dumbest parts of the movie, where he gets a phone call. He's the sheriff. I don't know if I mentioned that. He's the sheriff of the town. He gets a phone call, and obviously telling him that a couple teenagers were just murdered in the woods. And so he grabs his coat and he leaves, heads toward the scene of the crime, and Brittany Murphy wakes up and sees him driving off and does the dumbest, most unimportant thing ever. She's just looking out the window, and she's like, "Daddy." I didn't notice it the first time I saw it, but I was like, what the fuck was that about?
I instantly thought she was fucking sleepwalking, and just watch this movie, I'm like, well, she's the killer because she sleepwalks and kills people. That's how stupid that scene was, and how far it threw me off.
Right. I didn't notice that the first time I saw it, but I noticed it this time. If I hadn't seen it, I would have thought the same thing.
Yep.
Absolutely. Another weird part is that he leaves his house at night, and then he arrives at the scene of the crime, which is presumably in the same town.
Yeah. Daytime.
And the sun's up. He stopped to fucking get a bagel and a cup of coffee or something, and then just was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna read a novella, and then I'll show up to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, it's not like sun is slightly coming up over the horizon of the trees on beautiful Cherry Falls. It was like fucking 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah.
That's why this town's so out of whack.
Ugh.
The cops are all disoriented.
So while all this is happening, Brittany Murphy. Well, her name's Jody, right? What do you think, guys? Think I should? I should call her Jody, or should I call her Brittany Murphy for the rest of the thing?
Jody.
Okay.
Jody.
All right. I'll try to remember. Actually, it would be funny if every time I say Brittany Murphy, you just yell Jody. And
deal.
Let's do that. Let's go that way.
Let's
take
do
that path.
So there's an oddly dressed gossip columnist that Jody's friends with in this movie. I'm gonna guess that character was supposed to be gay. But this dude played it so bad.
It was
I thought he was the killer.
Did you really?
Until you know, when he takes her cell phone, until that spot where they get to the locker and it has virgin carved in it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, this guy's totally doing it because he's way too into it. Like when they have that whole meeting in the gymnasium, where they're talking about they're killing virgins, this and that, and he's got his camera out, he's taking pictures, I was like, oh man, this guy's it.
I just thought he was annoying.
He was terrible. He was terrible.
And I didn't think you could get more annoying, and then Jay Moore is in this movie. And Jay Moore, he had to realize how dumb this role was.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
So, the gossip columnist friend tells Jody that, hey, your friend and her boyfriend were killed in a car last night, and obviously the whole school is reacting, and they're in English class, and Jay Moore is their English teacher. His Mr. Marlton? Mr.
Marlton.
Marlton. Okay. He's kind of giving them counseling, and they're going around and talking about their feelings, which is what you do. And I mean, whatever. But he's got a smirk on his face the whole time. Does anybody else notice that? He's like,
oh yeah.
He's like, go ahead, tell me all about your feelings, and he's smiling the whole time. This is a little bit of a red. And that makes it a red. There's a ton of red herrings in this movie, and then they kill them off all pretty quickly. But yeah, I'm surprised that Jay Moore was actually able to take a leave of absence from Outback Steakhouse to do this movie. That's where I imagine that he fucking worked. That's where he probably works now. He probably works at Outback Steakhouse. So as he's giving this, this pep talk or whatever, this feelings chat, Michael Biehn comes in to try to get more information out of the kids, and they're, they were friends with these two that just got murdered, and he has a great quote after he addresses the class. Great quote. So he's talking to Jay Moore, who's sort of asking him to be more transparent about the investigation. He's just challenging the sheriff's authority in front of the class. It's amazing. And Jay Moore quotes Plato. He's like, Plato says that you have to be, more open with the masses or open with the truth and whatever. And Michael Biehn says, Plato can give out the details he wants when he's the sheriff of this town. He's such a good authority figure. I can't say enough how good he was in this movie. He's super convincing in everything he does, whether he's the sheriff of Cherry Falls, he's killing Terminators, or he's killing aliens. He's
Lieutenant Hicks.
Yeah. There's also that awkward scene where he's trying to find out how sexually active Brittany Murphy is, which was a little weird.
It was so weird. He's like, how many bases?
Yeah.
First base? Did you kiss him?
It's such a creepy little part to that.
He's like testing her. He's like, you think you could go all the way? You think you could do it?
I feel like if it wasn't Michael Biehn, it would have been a really creepy, incesty scene. But I took that scene as Oh, well, he's just super awkward because he's a sheriff, so he's probably not the most emotionally available person for his daughter, so this conversation's rough for him. But if it was anybody else in that role, I'd be like, oh my god, stop trying to bang your daughter, dude, stop.
You think you could do it for the law?
So after this class, because I jumped a little bit ahead, after this class, the kids go to lunch and they're, doing what high school kids do. They're, this one likes this one and that one likes that guy and whatever. And all these kids are just a bunch of assholes. And that night, there's a third victim. And Virgin is carved into her. And so, obviously, the killer is going after virgins, right? So, that's why Michael Biehn starts asking Jody, almost said Brittany Murphy, Jody, about how sexually active she is. And then he decides to call for a town meeting of all the high school parents to let them know.
Scene.
Oh, it's so great to know what the killer that the killer's targeting virgins, right? The principal says to him, if the word gets out that to these high school kids, we're gonna have a fuck fest on our hands.
A non-stop fuck fest.
And Michael Biehn says it's better than a pile of dead teenagers. Perfect. Yes. That I was rolling when he said that. So Jody and the gossip guy, they end up eavesdropping on this town hall meeting, which turns into a riot.
Where guys punch each other and the sheriff just rolls his eyes at a podium and does nothing.
Right. And gossip guy takes Brittany Murphy's phone and he's like trying to, I guess change the headline of the newspaper. And he just kind of walks off with it, and then she goes looking for him, and she finds gossip guy dead. And then she gets chased throughout the hallways by the killer, who looks exactly like Nathan Explosion wearing leggings. Like, it's hilarious.
Oh, totally.
Yep. I mean, like chasing her down the hall, and he's got like the thighs of a fucking like running back, like a seasoned running back.
And then he slams her head into a locker.
It's
amazing. It's clunk.
And so he takes her into a room, and he's getting ready to carve Virgin in her skin with a knife. Then she wakes up, and she fights him off, and she wins the fight by launching a replica shark at him, which has to be one of the most ridiculous props that I've ever seen in a movie. Like, they had, I think they did it in that room just so they could use the shark. You know what I mean?
The 10-pound paper mache shark that killed the 6'4" killer.
That guy looks like he could drive right past LeBron to the hoop. And
yep.
and he's taken out by a fucking shark. I mean, come on.
A fucking paper mache shark. Ugh.
And from here, they sort of eliminate the mystery of the whole thing by killing off every red herring pretty quickly. And then we start to get the feeling that Michael Biehn was actually kind of a rapey asshole in high school. So Michael Biehn tells Jody that she's got to stay home. This is another great part. This is I just laughed. And this didn't actually happen, not so many words, but here's the way I saw it. So Michael Biehn says to Jody, hey, you're not going to school tomorrow. After she gets attacked and almost killed by, a serial killer or whatever. And she's like, no, I want to go into school. And he's like, basically, it's against my better judgment, and no respectable father would ever do this, but sure, Jody, go back to the place where you were attacked and nearly murdered before we've apprehended the assailant. I mean, it's a school day. He would never think to look for you at school. And she goes back to school just to advance the plot. It's terrible. And this is when the movie starts to get really funny, I think. The students sort of have this meeting that they're going to have a sex party, because now the whole word is out. The word is out. If you're a virgin, you're you're fair game. But if you're not a virgin, if we have this fuck party, then we're gonna be safe, and the killer's just gonna have to move on to another town or whatever. And there's the one popular like slutty girl that's giving the pep talk to all the other girls. The phrase Hymen Holocaust is used, which is hilarious.
Hurricane Hormone.
They have a cheer that's Hail, Hail, Virgin High, drop your pants and fuck or die.
I forgot about that.
It's so great. And Kenny, the Tool boyfriend, he comes back into the picture because he knows that there's a student body sanctioned fuck party, and he sees this as a chance to rekindle his rocky relationship with Jody. So he sees her at school, and he's like, hey, I want you to go to this party with me. And they have like a very realistic high school conversation where she's like, I don't know. And he's like, no, come on. She's like, I'm supposed to be home by 3. He's like, nah, but come on, I'll pick you up, right? And she's like, all right. Which is very real. It's basically the most real thing to happen in this movie. No, come on, all right.
You know what was my favorite part about that whole pep rally thing they were doing? Was those kids smoking weed in the car. And like the one guy's just like, next time, I hope the killer is killing people who aren't giving head.
Yeah.
So she's supposed to be home by 3, but she decides, I'm going to go to a creepy library and hang out in a really dark room where there's only one exit. And she goes to this library because she's not as flighty as she appears, to try to put some pieces together as to why this is all happening, why they're going after virgins. So she's like looking into like the crime files and all that other bullshit. And meanwhile, Michael Biehn decides to go to West Virginia and look into this Laura Lee Sherman character that they mentioned a few times.
Actually, I want to interject on that because we missed stupid part. We missed a really stupid part where she's at the police station, and her father goes in the other room and gets on the phone and calls the principal that this Laura Lee is. It could be Laura Lee, and Brittany Murphy, Jody. 15 feet away from her father, picks up the phone to listen to the conversation. The sheriff of the police department looks over and sees that she's listening in. She hangs up the phone. He comes, and she has a look of just total fear and confusion. Hangs up the phone. He comes out. He says, "You weren't listening to me, were you?" And she goes, "No, I was trying to dial out to Mom, and I didn't get a dial tone."
Really flighty like, yeah.
and he goes, "Yeah, okay, that sounds about right, honey. I love you. Just go home." Like, you're the sheriff, man. You got to be able to put this shit together. Like,
yeah. Yeah, you're right. We did miss that part.
Yeah, I was like, what a bad sheriff.
Yeah, nobody's very good in this. Nobody's a good person. So he goes to West Virginia to look into this Laura Lee Sherman character, whose name he keeps telling Jody not to worry about because they keep, the name keeps getting brought up. She's like, "Who's Laura Lee Sherman?" And everybody's like, "Nah, it's just some chick." And her mother finds her at the library and yells at her for not coming home, and then tells her the story of how her dad and a bunch of other jocks from good homes raped this Laura Lee Sherman person and ruined her life. And police didn't take it seriously, because again, they're all from good homes. A similar thing happened in Montclair, New Jersey. I think when I was in high school, or maybe while I was in grade school, a bunch of like kids from good homes like took this girl into the woods or into some basement or something and then raped her. And then when they went to when the girl's parents went to the police about it, they nothing happened because everybody knew who these kids were. So this is a pretty typical thing. Anyway, so the police didn't take it seriously way back when when the sheriff was in high school, and that all of a sudden this might have some correlation with why all these virgins are getting killed off. So Jody gets mad and decides, I'm mad, I'm going to go to Kenny's house. And Kenny, being the tool that he is playing guitar poorly with the windows wide open. Sees Brittany Murphy, thinks to himself, I know what'll...
Jody!
Sorry. He sees Jody and thinks to himself, I know what'll impress her, a guitar solo. And then he tries to do a guitar solo, and he just looks like a tool, dude. She comes up to his room, they start hooking up, and then that's when he decides that he doesn't want to go all the way with with Jody, because she may be into sucking on toes or something. Like, it gets a...
That's what I was going to say. She was a total creep about it. She was like, bite my feet harder.
I think Jody might be into feet. It's a weird thing to find out now. So in order to avoid banging her, he accuses her of being into their teacher, Mr. Marlston, who of course is the super talented Jay Moore. And
the top build, ladies and gentlemen, Jay Moore.
Top build, Jay Moore. This, of course, makes Jody really mad, and she decides to go to Mr. Marlston's house while the sex party is just about to kick off. So, at the sex party, all these kids are trying to hook up, and the popular girl is using sex to barter for stuff. And this, to me, was the scariest part of the whole movie, because she convinces the stoner kid to give her all of his CDs, even the imports and the bootlegs, and I would totally tell her to go fuck herself. I'll just keep watching porno. I will never give you my records. I will never give you my tapes. I'll never give you my CDs. I don't care how hot you are. There's no girl that I went to high school with at all that is worth any of that. I don't know about you guys, but...
I mean, we can replace records.
No, you don't say that. Come on.
No. Come on. Be smarter than that. You can replace girls. You can't replace records.
Yeah, but you can't go back in time and bang the hottest girl in school. That's already gone. She's fat and has 3 kids now. So you got to take that's a temporal existence right there, ladies and gentlemen.
But you can keep listening to those records, Brett. Think about it.
You can buy another one off eBay. You can get your first pressings again. They'll always be there with a digital revolution. I'm just saying, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Digital revolution. We're talking about manual here, Brett. Come on.
Listen, honestly, if I just agree with you, then we're all yes men. So I gotta fight you on some point. But I mean, if you go get ass at 16, you go and get ass, whether it's fucking hell or high water.
Okay, cool, Brett. You can give up your signed cigarette pack that you got from Dream Theater, in order to bang the hottest chick in your high school.
That's irrelevant because that's temporal. That was something I got in a time and place.
What type of cigarettes were they, Brett?
They were Camel Turkish Golds.
That makes sense.
Totally does. And yeah. Look, I'm not gonna lie. It's not completely straight. Okay, so let's just put it out there. Okay, so full disclosure, hell no, I wouldn't give away my shit. But hey, I had to play devil's advocate on that one.
So, while these kids are trying to warm up to banging each other, Jody and Mr. Marlston are dragging a trunk into his basement because she sees him dragging a trunk. And she's like, hey, do you need help? And he's like, oh, yeah, that'd be great. And she's like, what's in the trunk? And here comes your dad, maybe mine. And he says it with like such a nonchalant attitude that that's when you start to go, So, Mr. Marlston opens the trunk, and Jody's dad is in it. He was not lying. And that, of course, reveals Mr. Marlston, played by the unending fountain of talent that is Jay Moore.
Poor Jay Moore.
But he's still alive, and Jay Moore ties them all up, and he's like, "Why don't you tell your daughter your about Laura Lee Sherman and your rape story?" He didn't say it like that, but that's basically what he does.
Pretty much.
Michael Biehn basically tells his rape story, which is super dumb because the flashback is comical.
Yeah.
His character's like super drunk, and when the sexual assault is going down, he has like no motor skills. So his three friends basically use him as a dildo and rape this Laura Lee Sherman person. Like, you see him, they're like using him as a battering ram. Which is horrible. This was on television.
The worst part about it, though, is like, you're strapped to a chair with a guy holding a knife to you, and he's like, "But I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing."
Yeah.
That's just
like, that's not what you want to say.
That was the part where it's just like totally inconsistent too, because like, if you can't walk, look, I've been super drunk before. If you can't walk and you can't think and your words are not even working, like, you don't know what you're doing. You are useless to anyone.
And there's no way you're getting an erection, much less coming to some type of orgasm. It's no way. There's no way.
No, you're falling asleep. If anything, he would have just fell on top of her. I'm just talking about like the what's the word? The blood alcohol level it just wouldn't permit that. Anyway.
But who knows with the battering ram thing? We've never been in that situation.
I've never been in that situation.
That might change things.
So Jody's like yelling, and this is another weird part, but I thought it was really funny. I felt it so funny that I needed to like write it down. So Jody's tied up, and like she's like yelling at him, and then he's yelling back at her, and he's like, Michael Bihn's in the middle of his story, and she's yelling at him, and then Jay Moore's like over her, like telling her to shut up, and then he like makes out with her for a second. Did you see that? Did anybody else notice that? Like for like 1 second, he just like, and then she's like trying to bite him. And I just
I saw that.
I thought it was just an awkward part. But anyway, so we find out that Mr. Marlston's mom was actually Laura Lee Sherman, and that it's possible that Michael Biehn is his dad. But all, like we discussed with the mechanics of how this sort of thing works, he's probably not. So, around this time, Kenny decides that he does not want to be at the fuck party without Jody, and he goes to find her, and he knew to go to Mr. Marlston's house, and of course he knocks on the door. He sees her bike outside. He knocks on the door. He's like, "Where's Jody?" And Jay Moore answers the door wearing like a kabuki robe and lipstick, and like they're just having this weird like eye-to-eye contact for a second, and he's like, "Why are you looking at me like that, Kenny?" And he's like, "Well, why are you wearing lipstick?" And he's like, "Because it makes me look pretty." And he gets by Jay Moore, and he runs inside and tries to save he tries to save Jody and her dad. He frees them from Mr. Marlston, or he frees them. Mr. Marlston ends up fighting them a little bit, and he ends up killing the sheriff with an axe, and then does the funniest fucking thing. He just runs out of the house screaming his fucking head off.
Yeah.
Which I thought was awesome. Awesome. That was the second most convincing thing to happen in this movie. And Kenny and Jody go to the party to warn everybody that it's their English teacher that's the killer. And then he takes the time to dress in full drag, and then he shows up at the party and just crashes it and says, "Class dismissed." And then starts just cutting up kids left and right, just as they're trying to run away, just slashing at them. So it's really hard to tell at that point, like, what the body count really is, because you don't see any of them go down. I think up to that, I think there was like 7. So I think I in all fairness, I think he probably killed 3 kids. That's my estimate. So that's why my number is 10. It's either so it was either 6 or 7 at that point. I'm not really sure, but anyway. And then the ending is where it really falls apart, because like all of this has happened and he's been like so sly and cunning, and he's built like a fucking running back, and he's an educated guy, so he's at least a little bit smart. And then Brittany Murphy does the oldest trick in the book, where she stands in front of a window, and then he runs at her, and she runs out the window. He falls out. He goes out the window and impales himself on the fence outside. And then, of course, there's one last scare, and then a sexy lady deputy shoots him. End of the movie. What did I miss? Anything? Did I cover this whole thing?
That's pretty well covered.
When he runs out that window, though, I feel like that was very Halloween. That was very Dr. Loomis.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
it looked like this. It looked like the same bedroom.
Yeah. It did. It actually really did. I didn't even think of that. So before we go into ratings and stuff, what else? Do you guys have anything to add? Brett sent me a message during the week that he's like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna be sick for this one because
yeah, I totally did.
I don't like it.
I didn't like how I didn't like it really to begin with. I laughed. I giggled at it a few times, like especially the parts that we just touched. And I just didn't like the ending, especially, which I didn't like the movie to begin with, but I really didn't like the ending because they were just kind of like, do you have any idea why this all happened? Like your dad and all this kind of stuff. And the mom and Jody were just like, nope, we don't know why this would have happened. We have no clue. I'm like, really? Like they set the sheriff up to be bad, and then he got fucking brutally murdered. And then it's like, well, maybe the world should find out why this happened. They're like, no, it's just gonna stay a fucking family secret that Dad was most likely, potentially, a battering ram rapist. And I was just so pissed when I watched the end of it, and I texted Bloodbath. I'm like, nah, I don't know if I could do this shit.
See, I wish you had told me that. Like, that was the reason why you got so mad, because I was like, he sends me this message. He's like, this glorifies fucking rape culture, and I'm not down with that. And he got like, I was like, all right, well, look, there's no reason to go on a crusade. You just do what you got to do on the show. It's fine. And, it's the way it felt in the message. It may not have been so loud. You may have just been like, nah, I don't want it, but whatever.
It was definitely more of that attitude. It was just more of a like, yeah, dude, this like glorifies like rape culture pretty hard. Like the ending just kind of glorifies it. Obviously, we're talking about a time where it wasn't as, I won't say it wasn't as prevalent now, but it's just such a hot button topic and needs to be, of course. But I just watched it at the end, and I was like, I just feel kind of gross about this. Not like the cool gross that good horror movies bring you, like the cool like, what the fuck did I just watch? What the fuck was that? It was more just like, God, this is kind of stupid, blind, and ignorant. But a day later I got over it, and I'm like, whatever, I'll just talk about this shit.
Well, the thing is, so that part specifically that you're talking about, I agree with you. But it's also, they kind of borrowed that ending from Cannibal Ferox, which is there's one survivor, and she and they're like interviewing her at the college or wherever that she works, and she's like, so you didn't experience cannibalism at all? And of course she did. She just saw all of her friends get eaten, and she's like, no, there was no such thing as cannibalism. Like, she just tried to hide it from the rest of the world because of her, like, she was writing an essay about how cannibalism is a news manufactured thing. It's just to capture hype or whatever.
Well, I feel like
and so I feel like that ending was like the director's attempt to try to capture that feeling from that movie, and that's why I didn't really feel like it was catering to rape culture as much as it was pandering to sex crazed teen culture, which is what Scream did, and what I Know What You Did Last Summer did, and all those other stupid movies that came out around that time. I think it's a time period piece in a lot of ways. I've seen some really rapey movies in my day. I mean, I've seen all the Spit on Your Grave movies, and they're really rapey.
Well, we watched Headless, and right, Headless was the name of that movie with the and I guess my main concern, I don't say concern, but what ticked me off so much is like going into Headless, I knew I was gonna see some like socially fucked up, like vehemently charged racism and rape and all that kind of shit, and that movie was set up to be like that. So when the fucked up scenes happened, I was expecting them. And I guess I wasn't expecting that in a goofy popcorn attempt at, not even released in theaters because nobody would do it, 90s film. I guess at the end of that, I was like, oh, okay, that's a really shitty mentality at the end of this movie. So I think it was just that catching me off guard.
That's fine, I get it. To be honest with you, I think this is a lot better than a lot of the movies like it that came out around this time, around that time period. And the late 90s and the early 2000s were a really bad time for horror movies, so with the exception of Scream. It sucked. It was a bad scene, so I'll take this movie over Disturbing Behavior or The Faculty or any of the other movies that I've been bringing up over and over again.
Yeah, but you see, I saw The Faculty back in that day, so I guess I kind of have that nostalgia of, wow, I watched this movie, it's really fucking stupid. Like, they had a piece that went in their nose that hid cocaine. Like, I guess I have that nostalgia for that movie as being as bad as it was and laughing my ass off at it as you do with this one.
Yeah, I get it. You guys want to do some ratings?
Are we gonna do my little piece, or are we gonna do the ratings first?
What piece?
The conspiracy crawl space.
The crawl space.
You have a crawl space. Hey, I don't know whether when we do episodes, I don't know whether or not you have them.
I'm sorry, I have one.
Of course,
I was hoping you had one.
Of course, I want to do the crawl space.
Get your tinfoil hats ready. It's time to cozy up in Brett's conspiracy crawl space on Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray.
Okay, so conspiracy crawl space, and trust me, I had to grasp at fucking straws like Jay Moore does now that he works at McDonald's. So it was.
I saw what you did there. You took my joke and then you made it yours a little bit. It was very awesome.
There we go. So, so this one's gonna really be really fucking crazy, but it actually is somewhat plausible in a weird way. So, what bothered me about this movie is that the motive, like, okay, so you're the product of a rape victim, and so you decide to kill virgins, and why not kill the guys who get laid? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. And the shoe, there was a fucking scene where the killer's in the what do you call it, the cafeteria, and knocks out a cigarette and crushes it with the shoe with like the 4 like triangles on it. And then I'm like, well, Mr. Marlston was there. This is weird. So this is my weird, crazy conspiracy off the fucking wall, grasping for straws, that Kenny is actually in on it, because Marlston doesn't want to kill virgins. That's not his main point. What he wants to do is he wants to get back at who he thinks his father is, and what better way to do it than have something than the deflowering of his daughter, either through a teacher or through a boyfriend who forces her into sex. Basically, he wants her to get banged against her will. So it brings Kenny in. I don't know why. Kenny's kind of the herb. He's a nerd. He's trying to be cool, but nobody fucking likes him. He sits with, like, somewhat the guy who looks like Poe Dameron from Star Wars Awakens. Like, that's like his only friend. And so I'm thinking Mr. Marlston brings him in. That's why this kid Kenny's trying to, like, pressure him to sex, but Marlston's plan's not working out because Kenny's not getting it done. So he starts killing fucking virgins all over the place to try and get these kids to have sex so that Kenny can jump in and try to push more sex on her. And this is why Kenny doesn't have sex with her in his bedroom, because it's not part of the fucking plan. It's got to be she doesn't want to do it, and she's got to regret it. Like, she starts sucking toes and shit and all that weird stuff. So he backs off, and then why does he know to go to Mr. Marlston's house? Because he knows that this guy is fucked in the head and created some sort of deal for him. And when they make that weird, like, eye contact exchange, it's because Mr. Marlston's like, what the fuck? You're part of my plan. Why are you here? And then that's when Kenny kind of figures out, like, holy shit, you dress as women, you're the killer. I just thought you were just trying to get me to deflower people. I didn't know what your big plan is, and that's why he turns on him. Because why else would they show that fucking shoe? So that is my conspiracy crawl space of the evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Well done, sir.
Well done, sir. That was a good one.
I don't believe a fucking word of it.
It's better than The Descent.
Okay, yeah. Well, that one was what I found off the internet. This one, there's nothing on the fucking internet really about this movie, so I had to create my own craziness.
It was good.
Thank you.
The toe sucking thing was the grossest. The feet are fucking disgusting, bro. Everybody's feet. They're gross. But never. That makes me sick.
I mean, I could look at a woman and say, okay, her feet aren't disgusting, but there's no way in hell I just want to be like, yo, put that in my mouth. Ugh.
They're so gross.
Gross. My feet are gross too. Don't go near my feet, man. I sweat. My feet sweat all the time. Fuck
all
that.
the time. All the time.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. We are dedicated to bringing you the show across your favorite medium. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Please send all suggestions to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
All right, it's time for ratings. Bub, you've been pretty quiet. You go first.
And then I watched it.
Brett?
I gave it a 1. I gave it a 1 because of Michael Biehn being a fucking badass that he is. The funny ass quotes that there's probably 6 of them across this hour and 40-minute movie. And the parents punching each other at the PTA meeting or whatever. That's all I could do to give it a 1.
Do you think that Jay Moore works for Scott Baio at a Pizza Hut now? Do you think that he worked?
But he's one of those guys they keep in the back kitchen that nobody sees.
He's like Scott Baio's the manager, and Jay Moore's like the assistant manager. So that's anyway. That nothing to do with my rating. I gave it a 2. I think it's better than a lot of the teen Scream type movies that came out around that time. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Michael Biehn's the fucking man as far as movies like this go. It's definitely really goofy and dumb. Some of these characters are really annoying. Basically, all of these characters are really annoying.
Yep.
But the pacing is good. I mean, it's an easy movie to follow, and you don't get too bored.
Nah.
I mean, it's not the Wild Bunch or anything. It's not on the waterfront. There's absolutely no sophistication to this.
No.
For the right price, I'd buy it, but it's currently selling for like $20 on Blu-ray, so fuck that. I'm not doing that.
If it's not in the Walmart $5 bin, I ain't buying it.
It belongs in a $5 bin. $5 is about what I'd pay to have this.
Max.
Yeah. So.
If somebody gave it to me, Bloodbath, I would pay for the postage and shipping to mail it to your house.
What's your address, Brett?
That would be happy Halloween. I'll send it to you.
So yeah, I like it. It's all right. It's not very good, but I still like it. It's one of those movies. There's a lot of like it's so bad it's good parts. But yeah, I mean, it's more of like a guilty pleasure, I think, at this point than it is. It's not one that I can like defend easily.
If I could get like a YouTube video or like a GIF of just Jody's head getting thrown against the fucking locker, I would probably rate this movie higher.
That was awesome.
just on an hour loop of bang drop, bang drop.
I'm so glad that you guys thought that was as funny as I thought that was.
Totally did.
Because I was really worried when I wrote it down. I'm like, I might just be wasting my time here.
I'm gonna make that loop. I'm gonna make that loop and upload it to YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, do it.
Okay, guys. Well, next week we're gonna kick off our Halloween countdown by talking about Night of the Living Dead. We're gonna talk both the original and the Tom Savini remake from 1990. It's a good way to ease into the double feature. Like I said earlier, we're doing double features all month long. Really excited about it. So hit us up with your favorites. We'll see if we can put them in there. Until then, look for us on Twitter. And make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. Toodaloo.
Have a good night.
Adios.
Class dismissed.
Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Written and hosted by Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett667. Edited and produced by Bloodbath. Music has been graciously provided by the Slasher Film Festival Strategy and Nightbirds. Artwork and logo have been provided by Bub. Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, as well as @BloodGutsBluray on Twitter, @BloodGutsandBluray on Instagram, and visit our Tumblr page by going to bloodgutsandbluray.tumblr.com. For any questions regarding the show, advertising, or anything else, please send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thanks again. Get possessed.